Michel, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Anheuser-Busch InBev. You are now running the largest beer company in the world. It's been about a year now since you became CEO of the company, and very early on in your new job, you announced a new global purpose. We dream big to create a future with more cheers. I gotta say, this doesn't sound like the typical corporate statement of purpose. What's your message? What do you want to get across to people?
It doesn't sound very corporate, but sounds ABI, because we are known by dreaming big, and it's incredible to think that the future of more cheers is really correlated to our culture, to our industry, and brings a lot of what we do every day, each and every employee, and cuts across all segments that we tackle. It's not only about beer, because the future of more cheers is more inclusive, is more equitable, is where nature that we work with is in good, healthy, and is in good pace. And we really like the idea of bringing this as the North Star to the entire company, and my first thing as CEO.
Well, in your first 100 days as CEO, you visited many of your operations all around the world. You talked to hundreds of your employees. What did you learn from those conversations?
A couple of common themes they came across. One is people really like our culture, the company that we are, and the products that we represent. People love beer. People love the dynamic environment in which we have as a company. There was this view that our purpose, we had a purpose before that helped us for a long time but was outdated. So people really want to have something that was more inspiring and easy to share with everybody. There was a need to reframe a little bit of the objectives and the way forward in the company. I call this like reimagining what a beer company can be. And we put in place new purpose, new strategy, a very clear idea of moving from buying companies, an inorganic strategy, to a more organic strategy, growing brands, growing businesses. And so far, we are in the execution mode now, happy in the execution mode.
Well, as you say, you're much more into growing brands, building the company, as opposed to buying other companies. And the success of a beer company is to come up with products that are very popular with the public. What is the newest product that you're coming out with that you think is going to be the next big hit?
In the United States, one product that we have and people love is very new, is in a way Michelob Ultra as a franchise is well known by people, but you have, for example, Michelob Ultra Pure Gold, which is an organic version of Michelob Ultra, and is growing very fast. People love it.
This is a really difficult time to be growing your business. You're a new CEO, you've got lots of ideas. The US economy, the global economy is all very weak right now, dealing with inflation and a lot of other financial issues. What does it take to succeed in these difficult times?
People talk a lot about these things that in a tenure of a CEO you should see, right? Which is an economic crisis, a cycle of growth, a recession, a social disruption. In the first year, we check all the boxes. So you need to have your long-term plans. You need to have clarity on what you want to achieve, but a lot of flexibility to adapt to the circumstances. And I think that people are realizing, some are not, but today the cycles are much faster. You need to adapt much faster. You no longer have time to learn everything. You need to learn as much as you can and then act.
If the experts are right, we're going to see a recession worldwide in 2023. Well, how are you preparing? How are you saying to be flexible in the face of a real recession?
So number one, controlling what you can control. Number two, I think that we are fortunate to be in a category that's very resilient. And the reason why beer is so resilient is, in a way, is affordable as a category. So when people don't travel, they still meeting friends and drinking beer. And we have products that go from premium products to more affordable products, so we can appeal to everyone.
Well, speaking of prices, you have raised prices on many of your beer and other beverage brands, and it seems to be consumers are still buying it. Do you think that you can sustain that demand going into the new year, into 2023?
Prices of beer are lagging inflation. So far, because of what I said, consumption remains solid. Beer is growing globally, is gaining what we call share of throat, and has to do with what we said. Beer is very resilient. Beer is present in several different occasions. Globally has been premiumizing as an affordable luxury. So it's very easy for you to trade up in beer from the mainstream to the premium segment because it's a matter of cents, not thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars. And we keep looking at our revenue strategy in a way that we can keep the category healthy and we can keep interacting with our consumers because we want them to be with us for the long run.
You sound pretty optimistic at a time when so many business leaders are worried about all of the uncertainties. Is there any concerns that you had? What's on the top of your worry list?
So the fact that I look not concerned, look optimistic, it doesn't mean that I'm not concerned with things that I can see, manage, and control. But I think that at the same time, the background that I have, where I grew up, the places that I live in, they give me some visibility on all these impacts from inflation, supply chain disruptions, social instability, economic differences, and geopolitical tensions. And I think that I kind of try to understand all of that, but keep my focus on our strategy, on our execution, and motivate and engage our partners and our team in an optimistic way, because I think that I'm at the end of the day, I'm very optimistic about where we are going to. And of course, on the way, there is always some turbulence.
Well, Michel, let's talk a little bit about you. You grew up in Brazil, your mother Brazilian, your father Greek, and you've lived all around the world, in Europe, China, Latin America, the US, just about everywhere. How has that influenced your thinking as a CEO?
I had the privilege of living in many different places, grow up on a family that was multicultural in itself. And because you live in different places, you learn different cultures, different business methods. You can read faster sometimes what happens around you, and you continue to have contacts across the globe, which in a company that's truly globally, like us, we have a very diverse footprint. This ends up being a big help for you when you need to read things fast and build your plans and be able to adapt for different circumstances.
You've spent most of your career at AB InBev, 26 years, and you've worked in almost every possible country that the company does business. At what point did you look at yourself and say, I'd like to be the CEO?
Short answer, I think it was never. I always focused on doing my job, learning from people, and creating value to the company and to the stakeholders that we have. And it happened that I had opportunities to go everywhere. And I ended up on this great opportunity to be leading the company, which I consider to be a privilege.
You interact with so many American CEOs. I'm just wondering, how is the way you lead different than your American counterparts?
It's difficult to say because leadership is something that is very different, place to place, people to people. If I would say that there is like one difference maybe on my approach is that I tend to look at things from a more global standpoint and more empathetic to the differences that exist. And this is being helpful to me because when you get to know people the way that they think, usually you can bond faster, you can act faster, and you can find mutual understanding much faster.